And we're all familiar with depression at this point. We've talked about depression for decades. And nearly everybody at some point in their life will struggle with a bout of depression at some point. It's pretty normal. But for most people, it goes away. It's the only time you'll deal with it. But for those of us with clinical depression or depressive disorder, these feelings are always there. And it's a constant cycle of like this. You're good, you're bad. You're good, you're bad. And there's an overall feeling of worthlessness and sadness that comes along. And for those that don't suffer, depression is heavy. Depression is really heavy. You feel like you're underwater. You feel like you're in a vice, and it hurts. And unfortunately, we get into these places, and the effects of it are really difficult because there's a stigma behind all of mental illness, but especially depression. It's thought of as a character flaw or a weakness. And it's unfortunate because we're taught these things at a really young age. I'm really big on speaking to men when it comes to mental health because we're the worst at dealing with it. But when you think about the things that we're told at a really young age, of course we're going to struggle with this. Big boys don't cry. Toughen up. Stop being a baby. As men, we're allowed two acceptable emotions: happiness and anger. The fact that anger is an acceptable emotion is insane. But we're not allowed to be sad. We're not allowed to cry. We're not allowed to talk about our feelings. We are told to shove that down. We never learn how to deal with it and how to process it. Women, you guys get it differently. You're told that you're too emotional. Stop being sensitive. That all these things that we're feeling aren't because you have a disease. It's that your personality, you have these character flaws that make you feel this way. So we're talked out of our feelings at all times, and we don't want to deal with it because we're afraid to let this out. It took me years to come to grips with my mental illness and to be okay with it. I've been in therapy since I was 5. I was diagnosed with clinical depression at a really young age. When we're suffering from depression, we use those tools that we learned as children. We start to isolate. It's hard to get out of bed. We're not tired, but we can't get out of bed. Getting out of bed feels like monumental at that point. Those days are really long. If you ever laid in bed without watching television, talking on the phone, about being on the computer, those hours are really long. And those days get really long, and it feels like it's never going to end. Depression hurts. And if anybody is feeling as if they need help, I beg you to go get it. You're never going to beat depression. It is a disease. You're going to be dealing with it your entire life, but we can manage it. So again, we talk about doing anything artistic. We talk about taking mental health days. Doing charity work is extremely helpful. When we're doing service for other people, it makes us feel necessary and it gives us a little bit of joy. So these are all little small things that we can do, right? We all hear working out. All those things are great, but we need to do a lot of these things all at the same time to keep us healthy. Working out, charity work. I like to keep what I call my happy list. And on my happy list is exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of things that make me happy. They can be big or small. They could be travel. I like to go get coffee. The process of walking to a coffee shop, having them make my coffee, me make my little mix, is really relaxing and fun for me. My wife likes to take baths. Whatever it is, make a list and try to incorporate one of those things in every day if you can. And that's what we talk about when you hear people talk about self-care. And I don't care if you can do it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, if you have time to do it for an hour, try to incorporate these things into every day. It is extremely important that we take care of ourselves in these ways.